It's been over a week since we released my 2023 real estate market predictions, and we can already tell there's a significant amount of interest in it, and that's obviously because the market is in a state of flux. It's in a state of change. The last couple of years when I did the predictions, I didn't go nearly as long with them because it was kind of more of the same. Well, now it's not. Now it's different. And since we've had a little bit of time since they've been released, and now we've had thousands of people read it, from buyers, sellers, realtors, members of the media, a lot of people have reached out and they have some questions. So what I want to do is I'm going to go through the predictions here for 5 or 10 minutes and point out some different things that seem to be points of confusion for some, or areas that people said, I wish you went deeper on this, or I wish you went deeper on that. I'm going to spend some time going over that now. So take a look. Now, as you can see, I talked about here 2023 real estate market predictions, and I had put a subtitle of 2023 will be like 1982 all over again. I think that confused some. I'm going to go into that more deeply in a few minutes, but basically what I was pointing out is we're in a similar scenario of the early 80s where prices didn't go down that much, but the amount of real estate sales went down significantly. Now, I do not expect, as I described in here, for real estate sales to go down 50% because interest rates are not 19%, they're like 6.5%. But I do expect to see sales go down further in 2023 compared to 2022. And you have to remember 22 is down from the pretty close to an all-time high of 21. 21 was the biggest year since 2005. So I explained much of that in this section, and you can see I got into the different percentages. I obviously focused more when I was talking in detail in the states that we operate in, like Massachusetts, New Hampshire, Rhode Island, Connecticut, Maine, and Florida. But a lot of my overarching points apply very well nationally, and I want to point that out because I got a lot of friends in California, Arizona, Colorado, friends in Canada that reached out and said, well, do you feel that about where I am? And yes, the general points that I made in this absolutely apply, generally speaking, in most areas, but I went deeper and I used a lot of case studies from the states that we're in. So you can see what I'm predicting here, and that's for the number of sales to be down again. And one of the reasons that I'm saying that is the market's in a very interesting situation. Not only we now have less buyers, dramatically less than we did a year ago, but there are less sellers. This is not what happened. I repeat, this is not what happened 15 years ago. Look at the amount of homes that were listed. And this is again, Massachusetts graph here, but most of what I'm showing you applies nationally, at least in a general sense. Look at the amount of homes listed in 05, 06, 07, 08. 160, 150, 140,000 homes listed for sale. 2022, we didn't even get to 90,000 homes listed for sale. I mean, this was as of December 26th, but we're around 90,000 or mid-80s, I should say, and that is the lowest level since 2000. So the market is in this very interesting situation where we don't have very many buyers and we don't have very many sellers. I should be careful when I say we don't have very many buyers. We have less buyers than we had a year ago, but I'll tell you in the last couple of weeks since the first of the year, wow, did buyers come back out in a strong fashion as I predicted that they would in my predictions here. Now take a look at Connecticut. You can see the amount of homes listed. Again, lowest level since 2000, and if you look closely, I actually think 22 might be even lower than 2000 in Connecticut. So we just picked those two states to make that point. Now to get to the part about the early 80s. Take a look here at the amount of home sales. You can see that we went over 6 million in 2021, which was a record-breaking year, highest year since 05. You can see the last peak. Now we're going to go down, and I believe somewhere in here, I know that I had said I thought we'd go down to around 4 million nationally. And I think in Massachusetts, I predicted like mid-70s for 2023, which is a substantial decrease. But that brings you down to about here, 4 million. See my cursor? I'm not predicting 2 million. Don't be confused by my subtitle of it's the early 80s all over again. Again, what I meant was in this cycle, 2003 is going to be the down year for the amount of sales. And you can see I said in bold here, my overall prediction is that home sales will be down somewhere between 8 to 12% for 2023 when compared to 22. The market is in for a classic overcorrection. That's something we see in the stock market as well. So you see I said 8 to 12%, and then further down I mentioned something about right here in places like Florida, it will be more dramatic because the Sun Belt had an incredible run up in sales following the pandemic. So I had a couple people in Florida say to me, more than a couple, well, what do you mean? Are prices going down 40%? I said, no. Again, I'm talking about home sales. That's the first misunderstanding. See how it says here, home sales? See my cursor? And do I think they'll go down that much? No, but will they go down more? Absolutely, and I clarified that right here. I said, but if you compare to 21, it'll be down more. Florida, it'll be worse. That is because Florida went up so high. So instead of 8 to 12, who knows? Maybe it's going to be down 20%, the amount of home sales. Totally understandable for that sort of thing to happen. Now, here's the biggest thing that everybody worries about and that home buyers are just constantly concerned about. Because people have, you know what, I'm going to jump back on camera for this. People have what I refer to as 2008 post-traumatic stress, okay? That was a once in 70-year event where prices literally fell out. If you go back in history, of course, there's been times that prices went down a bit. They went down a bit in the early 90s. They went down a bit in the early 80s. Not so much. It was more the sales went down, but prices went down. There were other times in the 70s or 50s after the mad rush after the war in the late 40s. There was so much going on in housing, and then things hit a lull in the 50s during the Korean War. But really, the last time the prices went down that much was during the Depression in the 30s, okay? So if you look at this section, what I talked about here, and I think I'm just going to stay on camera for a minute here. What I talked about here is, yes, I expect to see some kind of price reduction. I think some of it's already gone on since the peak of June 22. Now, when buyers hear that, buyers, stay with me. Listen to the rest of my point. When you buyers hear that, you tend to go, oh my God! Relax, this is a year or two adjustment. Prices went up 30, 40, 50, 60%, depending on the market, from the spring of 20 to the spring of 22. If they slide back, what did I say here? Let's go back on screen. What did I say here? 3%. If they go down 3%, or they're up 3%, or they're flat, that's not a big deal. If you go to places like Florida, look here, I said in Florida, prices will likely settle down more because they went up more. And I explained that. So let's say prices there go down 10%. Who cares? When you buy a home, you're not buying it to flip it in most cases. The vast majority of buyers are keeping homes for at least 2 to 3 years. 2, 3, 4 years from now, you're not going to care that prices slid back a little bit during this market correction. It's not the end of the world. And I'm not trying to be an eternal optimist. I'm clearly being very, very honest with you in what I'm talking about here. But look at Florida prices, okay? Look how much they went up. I should have pointed this out a minute ago. Look how much they went up. And look at condos in green. If they go back down for a year or two a little bit and then go back up into the future, see my cursor? So what? Look at New Hampshire. Prices did nothing but go up since 19, and they went up dramatically. We went from an average sale price in early 2019 of $300,000 to an average sale price of $500,000 in the middle of 2022. Now we've dipped maybe to just below 500,000, and by the time we go through next year, it might be high fours. I mean, this is not a big deal. Now you look at Massachusetts, same type of argument here. Look at the pricing. Look how much it's gone up. So pricing is one of the biggest things that I heard from people on. Another one is mortgage interest rates. And you know what? I'm going to jump back on camera for that for a minute. Let me talk about that on camera. So here's the deal, folks. No one knows exactly what's going to happen with mortgage interest rates. I could be totally wrong with what I talked about in here, but I doubt it. I doubt I'll be totally wrong. No one knows. The Fed chair doesn't know exactly. Okay, mortgage rates are not tied directly to the federal funds short-term rate. And I explained that in there. There's many other factors that come into play. What are investors doing with their dollars? If they're buying bonds, if they're buying mortgage-backed securities, it drives rates down. Okay? But the markets remained pretty hot, and gas prices have seemed to get in check over the last few months. So it's good. And that's what caused rates to dip a little bit. We were up around the 7s in mid-fall, and that's why it was terribly slow in the mid-fall as far as home sales. Now gas prices settled a little. Inflation seems to be easing. So now rates are more like mid-6s. They were low 6s in early December for a week or two. They went back up. There were some issues in Japan. There's many factors that relate to mortgage interest rates. I pointed out in here that I think we're going to see a little more pain. I wouldn't be surprised if they went back up to 7 for a little while before they come back down in about a year and a half. So I will not be surprised at all if we get to April and May and rates are more like 7% or 7, maybe even a little bit more than that for a little while. Doesn't surprise me. Or I could be wrong. Maybe they are headed down from this point forward, but I don't think so. I think we've got a little more pain going on. Notice how I mentioned the strategic oil reserve was utilized in the fall to bring prices down, and now they're not doing that anymore. So I think we're likely going to see rates go up a little bit before they come back down in a more steady fashion. So home buyers, keep that in mind. And then my conclusion, if you take a look here, I pointed out things about rent and how much people spend on rent. And then I want you to look at my last sentence, and this is what I will end with. Look at this. In real estate, the show must and always does go on. Folks, that's the absolute truth. If I come back on camera, that is the absolute truth. People have to move. Buyers have to buy. People have deaths in their family, estate sales, divorce, family members get sick, people consolidate households when economies, money gets tight and economies adjust. The real estate show never ends, folks. Never ends. This is not a 2008 scenario, at least in the foreseeable future. Could I change my opinion in a year or two? Yes, but I don't think so. I really don't think so. Why? Because inventory is way too low. Remember what I said when I went through this? I talked about how in 2006, 7, 8, there were 45, 50,000 homes for sale in a place like Massachusetts. And right now, there's like 6,000 for sale. The inventory is too tight. You look nationally, 06, 7, 8, there were 3.5, 4 million, 5 million homes for sale. Nationally, now we have like 1 million to 1.5 million. It's nothing like that. That's it, folks. I hope that helps. Good luck, happy home buying, happy home selling. To see all of the predictions and actually be able to read it, make sure to log on to anthonyspredictions.com. Thanks.